alignment here. So the brigade commander tells me to refuse flank. You guys face that way. So your regiment, I'm a regiment. They tell me, Colonel Biggs, refuse the flank of the brigade. So I just do this. That's refusing your line. So that's what the 12th Illinois does. They're refusing the line. But it's a little too late, because by this time the Confederates are down in there, in the hollow. That's called Buffered Hollow down that way. So MacArthur looks at his situation. He's being outflanked everywhere. There's too much combat power, and his boys are running low of the 40 cartridges that are in the cartridge boxes. If they're firing 2 rounds a minute, they're basically down to 20 minutes of combat before they're out. They're not doing it that way. They're actually, and then when his guys fall, they rifle the cartridge boxes of the dead and the wounded so they can keep it up. There will be no reserve ammunition coming onto the field for the Federal side. There will be for the Confederates. As the Confederates advance forward, Force will start sending men back to the ammo wagons, bringing up boxes of ammunition and dropping them off at the front. So they're constantly being resupplied with ammo. The Federals are not. So MacArthur, after doing a fine job that lasts a couple hours here, will pull his brigade off in that direction down into Buffered Hollow. Next in line is the brigade of Richard Oglesby, future governor of Illinois, and he's up and he's ready. His 18th has already been engaged. His battle line is going to do a fine job. He's going to refuse his flank because the Confederates are now going to start pouring over the hill, coming to this position, and he will slowly start to fall back, very slowly. This is not a rout. It is not a fast attack. It's going to take from 6:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon to push them all the way back to where I'll show you where the battle ends. It's just a slow push. Maneuver, push, charge, defeat, reform, charge again. So Oglesby's going to have to fall back eventually down into Buffered Hollow because he's now out of ammunition. So McClernand is back there, and he's getting couriers from these brigades saying we're being hit hard, we need ammunition, we need support. And McClernand's like, well, we weren't supposed to bring on a general engagement. Well, we didn't. The other side did. What are you supposed to do? Say, wait a minute, we've been told not to fight. Go back. You're going to fight. You're being attacked. You're going to defend yourselves. So these guys are pulling back. McClernand starts sending a note to Lew Wallace. Wallace says, Grant's not here. Well, can you send this brigade in support? Let me send a courier to Grant and see what Grant says. I'll explain to him what's going on. I'm sure he'll let me do it. And finally, McClernand is like, look, I am really getting, this is by the time Oglesby's been pushed back to the crossroads. He says, look, I'm getting hammered. I need help. So he'll order Cruft's brigade to come up on the line of battle, and we'll talk about what happens to those guys. The lead regiment is the Green 25th Kentucky U.S. And they do something very bad that they did not plan on doing to their fellow Federal soldiers. We'll talk about that when we get further down the road a little bit. Do you understand what happens? This is a crucial part of the battlefield. And up until this point, the visitors that came here never saw it unless they asked at the park, or unless they got somebody like me to bring them over here or whatever. They never came over here to figure this out. And if you don't understand what happens at Dudley Hill, you don't understand, well, why would they end up surrendering? So what's between the water batteries and Smith that causes them to surrender? Right here.
How far away from the crest of the hill?
A couple hundred yards, and it goes way out there. This hill's pretty, it's actually Dudley's Ridge. It's a ridge. It's just an extension of the ridge of the line. It's actually quite long. They don't have all of it. They've got a good hunk of it. They don't have all of it. All right, Brad.
How many troops were on Dudley's Hill?
With MacArthur, 3 regiments, he's looking at about 2,300.
Yeah, that's a big hit.
Facing 15,000 Confederates, I think. Right, your left and right on down this road. Again, Buffered Hollow is off to the left. There'll be some federal field hospitals down there, some supply wagons, and that's where MacArthur and Oglesby's brigades are going to fall back and start to regroup and resupply. But they don't really get too much back into the fight. It's basically going to be the follow-on troops for the rest of Oglesby's line of battle, and then Cruft from coming up from Lew Wallace's brigade, or excuse me, Lew Wallace's division.
Yes. Did you lose
On the hill? On the hill?
Well, it wasn't on the hill. It was off to the side.
Just here, you mean, or earlier?
Okay, again to the right, that's the Winds Ferry Road heading into Dover. We're now on the Winds Ferry Road. To the left will be the road to Buford Hollow. We're going to pull off in front of the church here for a second. And I'm going to tell you about the stand at this crossroads of the 11th Illinois Infantry. So by this time, we're about in the noonish hour, and the Confederates have pushed back to this position. Crofton will be coming up the road to our front, and then the other Federals have fallen back down into Buford Hollow down that way. And as the lines of battle bend and break and give away, as the Confederates keep pushing and pushing on both sides, and by this time you got Buckner's people just off to our right firing artillery in this area and launching attacks down from their side of the ridge line, trying to break the Federals here. What happens is, you can look on your map number 6 and you'll see the line of battle where you see 29th Illinois, which is the left flank of Oglesby's brigade, and then the next brigade in line. Right flank is 31st Illinois, that's John Logan's regiment. 11th Illinois is Thomas Ransom's regiment. You got the 20th Illinois there, and was it the 48th? I think it's the 48th. 45th of the lead miners, I know that. I think it's 48th there. So they're at this crossroads, and their left flank is basically wide open. Now you got John, this is where John Logan will start to earn his reputation as a combat commander, and he will rise to command 15th Corps in the Atlantic campaign. And in my opinion, after McPherson is killed, the Army of the Tennessee should have gone to him instead of Oliver Otis Howard, but he didn't have that West Point ring on his finger. But he will be grievously wounded here. In fact, some newspapers report that he dies, but he doesn't, but he'll be out of action for a little while. And he fights his regiment exceedingly well, as they call it, the Dirty First of Illinois. His guys will swap positions with the 11th Illinois, and the 11th Illinois is going to stand like a stone wall. Where we heard that before, except the other side that did that were gray. And Ransom is doing a great job holding this crossroads. They're taking everything the Confederates are giving at them, are giving and throwing it right back in their face. Forrest rides up, and he sees a battery here with the 11th Illinois. He's determined to capture the battery. He falls back into the rear, and he runs into Colonel Helm of the 2nd Kentucky, and works out a tactical plan that says, basically, if you hit them on one side, I will hit them on the other. We'll capture the guns, and we will crack this nut here that's stopping our attack cold. So they do. They reform and they coordinate their assault. It's a combined arms assault, and they will ride forward and capture this position in behind of the 11th Illinois line. We'll jump to Lieutenant James Churchill, who wrote a great account of the fighting here, and he's talking in there about, he's with the color line with the Colonel Ransom and everything, and they're standing to the front. They're taking everything the Confederates can throw at them. All of a sudden, men to his left and right start falling, but they're falling forward. That means they're being shot from behind. They turn around and they look, and there's a line of gray cavalry right about where that White House is. They have broken through, and they've now extended a line of gray cavalrymen with their Maynard carbines firing into the rear of the 11th Illinois Infantry. Colonel Ransom sees that. He orders an about face and at the double quick charge. And they start charging the cavalry line with their bayonets leveled and going after the graybacks on horse. Well, Churchill takes a round in one of his legs. It doesn't break the bone, so he goes down and he finds he's still able to run. He gets up, takes another round in the leg, and it goes and hits his thigh bone, is deflected down the bone itself and lodges near his knee. He goes down. He's going to stay on the field of battle for about 26 hours. As the Confederate infantry line moves forward over this position, pushing the Federals back down the Winds Ferry Road into Buford Hollow, the surgeons and the stragglers come up and look at him and go, well, this guy's dead. There's no way he's going to survive. He's going to bleed out. Nothing we can do for him. A couple of the Confederate stragglers will take some things from him and some of the Federals that are lying dead and wounded around him. His head falls on the body of one of his comrades and keeps his head out of the snow. They'll pull the body out from under to rifle the guy's pockets, and his head will fall onto the snow and sleet, and it will freeze there. They'll have to cut his hair the next day to get him off because his head freezes to the ground. He does ask for some water, and he's given some water by one of the Confederates. Another Confederate of Forrest cavalry rides by, and he looks at him and he talks with him. He says, I've never seen that kind of rifle. What is it? Well, this guy's got a Colt revolving rifle. And he explains how he looks, and he says, well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me, and off the trooper goes. Now later that night, after everybody has fallen back into the trenches, when Pillow orders the back to the trenches thing, because his guys have gone out without packs, whereas Buckner's people have gone out with the packs, And Pillow says, well, we have to go back and cook our rations and gather our camp gear that we're going to haul out of here. And Buckner's just shaking his head like, I thought we were going to break out. I was going to be the rear guard. My boys have the packs. We should be on the road, the Forge Road down to Charlotte and then on to Nashville from there. So Pillow will blow that. And then as the door closes that night, the Confederates fall back. The Federals will push forward and shut the door. They'll leave one brigade, the Confederates leave one brigade out here under Drake, but it's not enough to hold back Grant's onslaught to shut the door and try to regain the siege, if you will. The next day when the sun comes up, they look around and looking for more wounded, and they find that Churchill is still alive, and what saves his life is it's so bitterly cold, his 2 wounds will freeze shut, and he does not bleed out. He will recover and rejoin his regiment. I mentioned the Porter's Battery suffered 72% casualties here. The 11th Illinois suffers the highest of the Union regiments here. It's 53%. Then they go to Shiloh and suffer another 50% casualties. So in their first 2 battles, the regiment is almost wiped out. I found a letter in the Macon, Georgia paper. It was captured in transmission from a captain of one of the companies of the 11th Illinois, dated after Shiloh. It's about May or June of '62. And he's writing his father in New York, and the Macon, Georgia paper published it. And he talks about the battle at Fort Donelson, he talks about the Battle of Shiloh, and how badly shot up the 11th Illinois is. And he signs it, your loving son, his name, company, whatever, 11th Illinois Volunteers, in parentheses, what's left of us. You don't get 50% casualties in the Civil War until certainly after Shiloh, but not usually till late '63 and into '64 when the battles get even bloodier. So these are the guys that really took it on the chin. And then I'm glad to announce that about a year ago, the author of the only unit history, Hard Dying Men by James Huffstott, out of Florida, he had an ancestor from the regiment, has been reprinted, which is good because it was going for about $100 on eBay for a while, and it's been reprinted, and you can find it online for about $20. It's worth getting. Sorry, Maurice, it's paperback only, but that doesn't mean the information is not worth having. It's one of the best Union regimental histories I think I've ever read. Ransom will rise up to become a brigade commander in the Atlanta campaign. But this is one of the great stories, human interest stories, I think, of the Battle of Fort Donelson, the survival of James Churchill. A number of years ago, Civil War Times published his memoir, and that's where a lot of this comes from. All right, we're going to head on down Winds Ferry Road. You can take a look down Bufford Hollow as we do. If you look at map 7, you can kind of get an idea how the Confederate battle line is shaken out and how the Union response is shaken out to deal with the Confederate battle line. By this time, Buckner has come off his, oops, we're going the wrong, I'm sorry. See, you have to do a wide turn of this driveway because there's no place to turn down here if you can, or if you can back up. Okay. Yeah, we can't go down that way.